Welcome to Popcorn for Breakfast, the spoiler-free movie review podcast that you'll be listening to on a weekly basis very soon. Today we have an exclusive look at The Bikeriders, led by Austin Butler, Tom Hardy, Jodie Comer. Let's talk about it, Cam. Let's ride!
This is Popcorn for Breakfast, presented by St. Louis Area Smoothie Kings. Now, here are your hosts, Cam and Kirk.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kirk, and I am fighting the urge to make motorcycle sounds to start this episode.
Good for you. That really shows a lot of self-awareness and personal development on your part. So.
Instead of allowing my impulse control just to take over, I'm going to state what I'm hiding from the world right now.
That's the first step, really.
Thank you.
Kirk is kind of like if you're a parent and you have a toddler and how it seems like they're just all intrusive thoughts. That's Kirk. It's just all intrusive thoughts all the time.
Yeah, this is Cam. He helps me regulate my emotions.
I try and fail.
We co-host this together. Speaking of intrusive thoughts, I always talk about this one. Even though I came from the stage theater world, I always, at some point in any show I see live, I always want to. I think about, what if I just walked up there and hopped on stage and just like sat down on the set and started talking with them?
You would be doing that if you didn't have this podcast. This is your outlet for that behavior.
That's right. This is what grounds me right here and helps me understand that if I do one of those things, I'll go straight to jail.
Yep.
And this is a better outlet, better option here for us. This is a great week. We saw the movie that we're reviewing today a month ago called The Bikeriders. Directed by Jeff Nichols. Austin Butler stars. Tom Hardy is also starring. Jodie Comer is also starring, along with a slew of other incredible actors. Michael Shannon appears in this as well.
Love it. Michael Shannon. There's a little bit of a De Niro Scorsese thing cooking here with Shannon and Jeff Nichols.
Yes.
I think this is the fifth time that I think every movie that, if I'm correct, every feature film that Jeff Nichols has directed, Michael Shannon has appeared. So
that's incredible.
He hasn't always been the star of the movie. In fact, I don't know that he ever has been. I'll have to think back on that, but he's always been in it.
Yes.
Usually as a completely unhinged, insane character, which I love.
It's kind of like Wes Anderson has Jason Schwartzman. He'll also plug him into anything he has, even if it's like he's going to stop by as a
Wes Anderson's got like 10 of those. It's so weird. It's like Tilda Swinton. I mean, there's a ton of
Sam
them.
Rockwell. Yep. The list goes on.
Owen Wilson. It goes on.
Oh my goodness. So we're going to chat about The Bikeriders. What's this movie about? We're going to talk spoiler free, but to give you a baseline, this is a portrait pic, if you will. This is talking about if you were to take a camera and take a snapshot and be able to see the entire timeline. This is about a bike gang called the Vandals and what it took to become the gang that they are. Were they really a gang or were they just an organization? And what that looks like, the ins and outs of it, and how you feel about bike gangs. It's very fantastic. It's a fascinating tale based on a book based on real life events. We're going to dive into different categories such as, and the Oscar goes to, that's where we're going to talk about who our favorite actor is in this film. We're going to talk about the scene stealer, best supporting actor, if you will, the showstopper, what was the biggest moment in the film or the biggest arching feature that you enjoyed or caught your attention, whether it was from production or a single scene. Director's shoes, where we tear this thing apart and we ride right over the bumps in the road. And then, of course, our final thoughts and score. So, Cam, I get to go first.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to put you in the back seat.
Dang it.
What do you call that on a motorcycle? The side seat. Is it just the side seat?
Sidecar.
The sidecar. You're going to be the sidecar just for a moment while I take the lead.
There's another word for it. I can't say it.
You can't say it?
I would call it something else, not the sidecar, but like behind the person who's driving the motorcycle, but I won't say it.
Maybe we'll drop
it's
it in
a family show.
Maybe we'll drop it in our Discord channel
Maybe
later.
We will.
With asterisks over the bad words that Cam is thinking about. But to start, the Oscar goes to Mr. Austin Butler. That's right, Elvis himself. I don't know if I'll ever refer to him not as Elvis, because that was his
Fade
breakthrough from Dune 2. Austin Butler continues to be at the top of my list. He continues to be the new age film superstar. I feel like if he's on the banner, if he's on the marquee, I'm going to see it. And I have so much faith in him that he's going to continue to deliver, especially since seeing Dune 2. Was that this year? Earlier?
It was.
Wow.
It was like 3 months ago.
He released both of these this year. That's insane. And congrats on a fantastic year, Austin Butler. I think between the two of those films, we might see him get a Best Supporting Actor pick, if not a Best Actor pick for the Oscars coming up next spring. So I loved how careful he was to take this character on, to build it up, to not make it a caricature, because that's what he's always going to be fighting with in his career. And I hope we can look past that in a couple of years and just know that he just always delivers the exact performance that we need to see, that merges so well with the story. He is an absolute star, an absolute excellent and exceptional actor. Austin Butler, you have my heart.
He is a star. I mean, it was so apparent in this film. I mean, he just has it.
Yeah.
And again, it's like, people try to define it over the years. What drives it? What makes it? It's just aura. It's essence. It is, it's like watching Tom Cruise in a movie. When you see it, you're like, this guy's a star. This guy commands it. Austin Butler is 100% in this movie, and you're always waiting. I mean, at least for me, like, you're kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop with him, because it's just so early in his career, and he's been so good that it's like, I don't know if surely he'll turn in a bad performance. And I'm not kidding. I said it to you right after we walked out of the theater. The very first line he delivers in this movie, I was like, I'm all in. It sounds ridiculous, but you'll understand when you see the movie. It's crazy.
I do wonder, so many people are comparing Timothée Chalamet to Leo DiCaprio, but I think the real comparison is Austin Butler. Austin Butler was a child actor. He was on a Nickelodeon show, and Leo DiCaprio was on several like TV hopping shows for a while, like Growing Pains and such. And this is where I see Austin Butler having the most comparison of someone's career so far for just powerhouse after powerhouse, groundbreaking performances, unique to him and unique choices. I would really love to see him just to continue to succeed like that.
He will. I mean, he's got too much talent. So great pick. I'm going to go for my Oscar goes to, I'm going with Jodie Comer. I really love Jodie Comer, and I feel like not enough people know about Jodie Comer still. She is a primetime Emmy winner for her performance in Killing Eve, which is a show that I actually didn't watch. I think it was her and Sandra Oh in that show. Both phenomenal actors in their own right. Jodie Comer has just burst onto the scene lately. I think probably the one that most people have seen is probably going to be Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds, because that was a big Disney Plus hit. She was really good in that movie, and she's really good in this 2021 movie by Ridley Scott called The Last Duel that not a ton of people saw because it was COVID and all that. Really underrated movie, really fantastic performance from her. She is just a phenomenal talent. And in this movie, she brings it. I mean, just totally brings it. She's sporting a northern Chicago accent that's really good. And at first you're like, wow, because her voice, I think of her voice as a little lower than the register that she was in for this movie, just based on I probably don't even know her true voice because she just is such a talented performer. But I typically imagine her more in a lower register. In this movie, she's kind of higher up there, and she commits to this accent, which is an insane accent, but also a very real accent, especially given the time. I think we're in I can't even remember the era anymore, but I think we're in like the 70s.
Yep, 60s and 70s.
Late 60s into the mid 70s in this movie. So very, very on par for the era, and they are in Chicago, Illinois, and she's very much like representative of that time, as you mentioned. It's a portrait pick. I was blown away by her. Her character, the characters in this movie are really rich, and the character that she plays, Kathy, narrates large portions of this movie. And so she's not even on screen performing a lot of those times, but man, she's so captivating throughout. So Jodie Comer, my hat is off to you. Another phenomenal performance. Please go watch everything that she's done.
Yeah, I tried to go watch the Last Duel, and around that same release time, Matt Damon also made a movie called The Great Wall, and not as good. And I started it and I watched about 15 minutes of it, and I was like, there's no Jodie Comer. And I'm like, oh.
No, The Great Wall's way older, isn't it?
I think it's just a few years apart. I mean, Matt Damon has a really long ponytail in it, and he's fighting, I think, dragons, or they're trying to figure out when the Great Wall of China was built.
I have not seen that movie, but I was like, no way.
It's awful. Don't do it. Don't get confused like I did from Cam's recommendation. Oh, go watch The Last Duel.
It's Jodie Comer, Adam Driver, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, directed by Ridley Scott.
That's incredible.
It's so good.
The Great Wall is not good and avoided at all costs. Let's move into our scene stealer. I'm going to drop in with a guy, a new and upcomer named Toby Wallace. He's only had a couple of big debut things that have been widely distributed, but I think he's on his way. I think he's very unique. I like him. His name is Toby Wallace again. He goes by a character in the film The Bikeriders called The Kid. I'm always interested when everyone has a name in a movie except for a few. And then they're not an extra. Like, they're not just someone who's just sitting in the background, just going to pop in here. No, he's a very big driving force in this film. Watch out for him. You might have also seen him in Paramount Plus's terrible The Finest Kind direct to streaming platform video. Great actors in it, but it just didn't land. Jenna Ortega, Ben Foster, Tommy Lee Jones, but just didn't land, except he is really great in that film. And the whole time I watched this, I was like, I know this guy from something, and then it clicked at the end of the film. So he's doing some incredible things. He's in this film where he's an aspiring bike rider and he wants to join the gang. And again, they're called the Vandals. And he's approaching, campaigning, pitching Tom Hardy and Austin Butler and any other member of the gang that will listen to them and says, hey man, I got a bike. I want in. Can I do it? And so he's auditioning for the longest time, and all these different struggles that he goes through. It's very fascinating to watch throughout. So keep an eye on that name, Toby Wallace. I have very big plans for Toby.
Oh boy,
I'm casting him in a multi-million-dollar movie.
Kirk just revealed that he's got a screenplay he's sitting on. He's about to move into the next phase.
It's right here.
I love that. Okay, my scene stealer. I mean, I was not going to pick that one. That is a good pick. It's not a bad pick at all, but I do feel like you left me a softball here, which is to pick Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy is an interesting performer. I feel like he always picks roles where he's going to get to do a lot of character work. Even roles you wouldn't expect him to do insane character work for. Looking at you, Bane. He just dives into it and tries to find something unique that he can play with. I think he just really enjoys that element of his craft, and I have to respect him. It doesn't always work out for Tom, though. You know, he takes a lot of risks as an actor, which I'd rather have that than somebody who plays it safe. But he does swing and miss from time to time.
Yes,
and when you see him in this movie, he has another. I mean, hold on to your seats here. You're going to be shocked by this. Another insane and questionable accent that you're like, oh boy, like this is not going to work. And I'm here to say that it does. It does really well. It's remarkably consistent for something that I don't even know how you would define it. Almost like it's like a Don Corleone meets I don't know, meets Chicago. It's very strange.
It's indescribable. I don't think another human on the planet has that accent, yet it fits the character perfectly.
And he's delivering a lot of his lines with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, which is another layer to it. You would think that it would be totally incomprehensible, stupid garbage, and it's totally not. I think that he does a really good job. His character, there are really three characters in this movie that I think have, they are the main three that have remarkably well written characters that they're playing with, and that also turn in really in-depth, thoughtful character work. And it's Kathy, Jodie Comer's Kathy, Benny played by Austin Butler, and then Tom Hardy's character Johnny. And the three of them play so well off of each other, and I feel like Tom Hardy adds an element of authenticity to this movie and an element of there's something you kind of know this guy, like you don't know this guy, but you do. And I really liked that. I don't know how he does it in this movie, but he does, and he did a really good job.
Beautiful, beautiful. Let's talk about the showstopper moments in this film. These are moments that stopped you in your tracks. They made you spill your popcorn and your soda. They made you, in Cam's case, they made him spill his frozen Coke because he always gets a little slushy.
Yeah, man.
It's his go-to. When I see that slushy, I'm like, all right. Sometimes I arrive before camera into the seats, and I'm like looking for the blue slushy coming up the stairs. I'm like, there
Slushy
it is.
squad, stand up.
And he sees me with my popcorn and maybe my snuck-in candy. But the showstopper moment of this film has to go to the Shakespearean element to this, the Shakespearean writing, the Shakespearean characters. You don't have to like Shakespeare to like Shakespeare. I'm someone who developed a love for Shakespeare later in life. But like I wasn't like a 9-year-old who was reading King Lear. Like that's a weird thing to do, and I didn't do it. But if you like The Lion King, you like Shakespeare. If you like 10 Things I Hate About You, if you like She's the Man, shout out Amanda Bynes, you are a Shakespearean fan. You just don't know it yet. This film, these characters who are based on real people, they are bigger than life, and they represent so much more than a person, and yet because they are based on real people, it's incredible the things that they went through and they go through and that you go through with them. And that Shakespearean feel to it drives the stakes for this film. It drives the momentum for this film. It drives the emotional punch for every scene that comes on screen, whether it's a comedic trick that the director pulls out, like with a lot of times a lot of the comedy runs from Jodie Comer's character with that incredible accent modeled by you by Cam tonight, and then the heavy drama moments throughout the entire rest of this film. It's fantastic. It's exciting. It's I don't know. I could just sit with it for days because I love it so much, and that's my showstopper. Yeah,
I love it. It really is true. The storytelling in this is second to none. Jeff Nichols is an amazing writer and a great writer director. And when you watch this movie, you get kind of a sense of what a really good writer director can do, the power that they can unlock when they're not only the person directing the film but also the person who adapted it. In this case, from a book. And that's a little bit what I'm going to talk about in my showstopper, which is that this is a little interesting because it was adapted from a photo book, a book of photojournalism. And the photojournalist is a character in this film played by Mike Feist, who is a Broadway, someone who came from Broadway and is now springing onto the scene in movies like Challengers, and he's got a few other movies lined up. But at first I was like, oh, it's based on the book, And then I was like, oh, it's a photo book. Yeah. So that's a little different than adapting a novelization of something or something different. But the way that he does it is so thoughtful. There's all these scenes where you get these almost like reality show, documentary style one-to-ones with these characters where Mike Feist is interviewing them. And sometimes you don't even know that he's interviewing them whenever the scene starts. You think it's just somebody kind of like monologuing. And so you get all these great monologues, but you also get all of these great shots where he's kind of recreated actual photos from the book with these characters. And you get these shots with their voiceover over the top of it. And it's all just really beautiful. And what I love about this movie, they show some of those photos at the end and things like that. And it's a lot grungier than how the movie looks. But I think part of the point of this movie is that the movie looks like how these people viewed this world. There's this like mythology component to a biker gang. There's this romantic idea of it. So to take it and put a Hollywood lens on it is not inappropriate. It's not irresponsible. It's entirely appropriate because it's how these people view the reverence with which they view the biker gang culture, and it's just all beautifully done. And I have to tip my hat to Jeff Nichols. I think this movie was, I believe this was the movie that he left A Quiet Place day one to go make,
that
potentially.
Is correct. Yes.
So that's crazy. We'll see if that's the right choice, I guess. I think there were some creative differences going on there as well, probably. But that component of this movie justifies the movie just in and of itself.
Beautiful. I love all of that. Let's talk about director's shoes. If we were the director, if we were Jeff Nichols, if we had to kick him out of his seat and throw him in the sidecar or whatever dirty word Cam has, knock him out with chloroform and drive him to the
Wow.
next state. I've got it all planned.
We would
Cam.
never.
And then I've got my screenplay to read to Toby
Saying
Wallace.
that for the FBI.
That's right. The director's shoes, what we would have done differently or things that we did not enjoy in the film. And I have to say, the thing that has stuck with me 1 month long, the moment that we walked out of the theater, I knew it was exactly what I wanted to change, is that there is a narrative device, as they call it. There's a narration portion for part of this film. And when it's introduced to us, it's fine. But for me, it lingers a little bit too long to the point where it's like, okay, great. Well, the whole thing can't be narrated. That's an old 90s thing. I don't want to do that anymore. So there's a moment where I was ready to like let it go, and it kept happening. And that's all. That's my whole director's shoes.
Okay, we'll take it. My director shoes is, and it pains me to even say this one because I do love the storytelling and I love the character work, but I think that two parts of it are like they tried to focus a little bit too much on too many of the characters at times, which sucks because I like aspects of all of them, but at times it's like, and I'm going to stay spoiler free. There are characters that get introduced that when you get to the end and you understand how this all comes together, you're like, what was the point of that? And maybe that's just it. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes the point is just that they're there and they're part of the essence and feel of the film, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
But while the storytelling is really good, it is predictable. You know, like you mentioned Shakespearean. I think when you find stories that rely heavily on existing narrative tropes, there's just an element of predictability you can't avoid. And predictability doesn't necessarily mean bad. I think there's a lot of people out there that think because I know how this is going to go, it is therefore bad. Mm-hmm. And that's not true. I mean, we've retold the same stories just as a people for thousands of years, right? We've taken old stories and tweaked them and revamped them. I mean, you mentioned The Lion King. I mean, like we do this. So it doesn't make it bad by its nature. But it does make the latter third of this movie feel a little longer because by that point, you probably have a good idea of where things are going and where your characters' arcs are going to end up. And so those moments that are so good in the beginning of the movie where they're lingering and they're kind of like letting you sink into it and just really feel it, they start to feel a little overindulgent. And I mean that like as gently as possible because I'm not trying to destroy this movie because of it, but there just is a
2.5.
There is a tinge of that going on.
That's true. To add, made me think of another director shoe comment I have is that at times the stakes are so well laid out and they rise and they fall at the right times. And there's a really good shift in the momentum of this film and in a very pivotal scene just between Tom Hardy and Austin Butler. But then there are a couple moments where they kind of forget about that and they focus back in on the things that they already shifted away from. So yeah, there's a little bit of that, a little gently. I like that, gently. Don't quote us on it, even though it's recorded forever. Final thoughts and score, Cameron. I will go first, right?
Yep.
Well, here we are. The Bikeriders. Jeff Nichols, Austin Butler. Jeff Nichols is the director. I was saying it like he was a cast member. He's one of the Bikeriders. Do you hear? Austin Butler, Tom Hardy, Jodie Comer, Toby Wallace, so many others, Michael Shannon. I really just thoroughly enjoyed this film. It's a movie that came out this year in 2024 that I felt like I didn't have to try to like when I was in the theater. Like, okay, I'm here for a free screening. It's a movie. No one else has this opportunity but the people in this room to see this early. And I just really let go, and I didn't have to pre-score it as I sometimes do when I hit a bored moment in a movie and then rate from there. I really just enjoyed this film top to bottom. I think it's a home run. I think it's one of the best of 2024. My score today is 9.4 out of 10 kernels.
Wow. I love it. I'm very close to that. I really like this movie. I do think it is one of the best of 2024. I do think it will be divisive. I don't think this is a movie that's going to be necessarily universally loved. It's not to say that there's anything to like get about this movie to where like it's like, oh, I just didn't really get that. I just think that it's some people's vibe and it's some people's not. And and it's just as simple as that. But it's undeniably well written, very thoughtful, very well acted on many, many, many fronts, even beyond characters and performers that we talked about. It's definitely got a style, an aesthetic, a feel. You feel like you can reach out and touch this movie. It set out to do something, and it did it. I say that a lot on this show because that's kind of the highest praise that I can give, because I think the movie making process is messy, and sometimes people set out to make a certain type of movie and it comes out a different way. This one is not that. They made the movie that they were trying to make, and this movie got stuck in the seventh ring of production distribution hell with the writer strikes, and I think Searchlight was originally supposed to distribute it, and then Focus Features picked it up. I mean, this movie has been done for over a year, but it's finally out, and I think it's great that it is. And I hope lots of people see it. I think it's going to struggle in the box office because it's going to be up against Inside Out 2 and all of those things. But for me, it's a 9.0 out of 10 and one of my favorite movies of the year.
I think Austin Butler will bring people there. I think he will.
He's getting there, man.
I think he will literally pick them up in a motorcycle and drive
in a 15-passenger van. No, but I mean, I really do think he's a few of these, and maybe it comes later when this one hits Peacock. Is that where it'll go? Because Universal did the international distribution. I don't know. But whenever it gets to streaming and people start to build word of mouth about it, I think he's really starting to turn into appointment viewing. Somebody you have to go see.
Let's connect the dots on Peacock is a terrible streaming platform. You have to see this in theaters because we know you don't subscribe to.
Yeah,
Peacock.
Go see it in theaters.
It's fantastic.
Go see it at Alamo. It's a great Alamo movie.
The motorcycle noises alone are just...
The soundtrack, great.
Thrilling. Absolutely thrilling. So thank you for joining us on our spoiler-free exclusive episode on The Bikeriders, coming out this coming weekend. Austin Butler, Tom Hardy, Jodie Comer, Toby Wallace, so many other incredible stars in an incredibly high-octane film that doesn't remind you of Fast and the Furious just because of the car noises.
Not even a little tiny bit.
Not at all. They don't go to space. You guys can join us anytime on Popcorn 4. That's the number 4 breakfast.com. Join us on Discord, X. I almost said Max, like we're on HBO Max.
Coming soon.
With my Toby Wallace screenplay. Let's also check us out on Facebook, on Instagram. We're all over the place. Make sure you find us. We cannot wait to talk to you about more movies all the time.